So, you ever seen one of those people who live and breathe versus debates? If you look no further than what I believe is a subscriber of mine, then you'll find the prime example known as Professor PokeGeek. At least I assume he's subbed to me, since I haven't checked in a while, but he could just be a very dedicated fan of my live streams, which I still appreciate. But this SHITTUBES isn't about him, or even a normal one. This will just be one part, instead of the normal 3. In a recent live stream, Professor PokeGeek brought up a person I always wanted to make a video on, but really needed to understand exactly how I felt about him, and to get some bits and pieces of information to really drive home my point. This is someone who rushes to try and, as he calls it, debunk other people's opinions. And by rush, I mean rushing with the kind of speed that middle-class citizens have when Black Friday at Best Buy comes around. Now, this person isn't someone that I have a genuine personal grudge against, but even if I don't, I tend to just make jokes and insults to varying degrees in order to spark a laugh out of people that I think would like my sense of humor. The kind of trigger that comes with my gun comes from people like Digibro, who say good things about people who are led to believe they're friends, but end up being called shit by him just because someone he likes better gets triggered by someone else that you can't control. AKA the Endless Jess and Monkey Jones scenario, or the thin-skinned piece of shit and the chimpanzee scenario. Subscribe to Monkey Jones. As far as I'm concerned with Digibro though, I made a SHITTUBES video about him before, so go check that out. I like the video, just that my stances on him have long gone beyond just his current content quality and full-on hatred of him as a human being. He's not an asshole, he's a wannabe Hollywood elite. Except in his case, he treats YouTube as his Hollywood, and tries to emulate people like Casey Neistat, while looking more like a rub-a-dub-dub effin' Roz without the diaper wearing. Maybe. And I guess Double 4 Anime also makes me hate him, but more like hating that annoying little kid who always talks about how much he likes the Power Rangers. In this case, however, it's the Ninja Squad. But back on topic to start things off, my problem with this guy, whose name is really hard for me to pronounce because of my teeth, you know, I have a lisp, SethTheProgrammer, can be summed up as this. He sucks at doing research and showing it, unless it's Dragon Ball specific. But to further elaborate, what I mean is that he tends to have research to show when he talks about Dragon Ball. But ask him to actually show you images of stuff like the interviews of One Punch Man that prove he's a parody, and he'll probably tell you it's common knowledge where to find them by asking you to whip up Uncle Google, while Google happens to be that one libtard uncle who tells you a lie just to fuck with you. The real truth is that he's never seen any interviews and only went and stuck his ear into the scum-infested mouth of other salt-infested Dragon Ball tards who get triggered by any opinion not agreeing with theirs, usually making up the commenters on videos and not official sources or reputable YouTubers. I can't tell you how many people in the comments section basically cut themselves up like fries and just jump into a deep fryer to be salted like they were in McDonald's Happy Meals back when I was a kid. Nowadays I think they just give you apples, you know? Maybe they're salted, I don't know. Most of the time they tell you that the author stated Saitama is a parody, or some other character or series is so-and-so because of so-and-so, and Seth, he constantly shows that he can't help but absorb this bullshit without any critical thought. Like a sea sponge used in a shower, being forced by a crusty-skinned ashy hood rat scrubbing his nuts with it to get the smegma off. The problem is that Seth never tends to show these so-called interviews or databooks that could actually be used as facts. And when he does, it's usually only after he called the opposite of what the real sources say as facts. The point of being open-minded and knowing when to hold 'em and when to fold 'em in a debate is by knowing when to call something a fact and when not to. If you have nothing to show in the video editing of so-called interviews, proven feats in comic scans, or data books, then don't call your opinion a fact in front of an impressionable audience of young children and potentially autistic man-children. They're gonna believe you. Then, when you're potentially proven wrong, they'll learn nothing because they put too much faith in you. They put so much faith that they're never gonna doubt you, even if you're contradicting yourself left and right. People need to know how to debate better. You can't run on an emotional belief in something as a fact. You got too much emotion going on in there. You're too hooked on Dragon Ball. One example of this is when Seth and Chuck the Cybercuck tried to continuously peddle the belief that Boros from One Punch Man isn't a planet buster. The problem is that even after all the videos he's made on One Punch Man, he finally made one that admitted he was wrong. When he made a video revealing Boros could bust the planet in that final episode if his attack had hit in a databook. You wouldn't be wrong technically if you just held your tongue and not called the previous opinion as a fact. You can believe something without believing it as an undeniable fact. Undeniable facts are things like author-created databooks like the Daisenshu for Dragon Ball. In fact, I've even heard that he said that Boros was close to Saitama in power. That is obviously bullshit, especially if you pay attention to the fact that Boros could see it in Saitama, that not only was he outmatched, but by such a percentage that Boros wasn't even existing in the same area. It was like a little speck. They switched roles. Boros was essentially the people that he had fought before, that he crushed like nothing. Another example of his inability to bring himself to research anything but Dragon Ball on any adequate level is when he tries to constantly claim that it's proven that Saitama is a parody. He and his fans constantly tried to claim that in interviews, One Punch Man's author 1 referred to Saitama as a parody. Even though he was most likely referring to the series in general, regardless of what type of character Saitama is, at most he's a parody in physical design of Anpan Man, another character from a different series, but nothing alike in terms of character. The issue lies in the fact that these so-called interviews are nowhere to be found, neither in its original Japanese form in a possible magazine with credibility, as fake news is a thing these days, or in anything other than English archives like on the One Punch Man wiki. These so-called interviews don't even state the word parody, let alone have as much grammar and spell checking as I would like. But for the sake of this video, let's pretend they're undeniably the interviews. If you do a Google search, you'll more than likely find what was given to me by his retarded fanbase, and by Google itself, in the form of archives of what are believed to be interviews about One, the author of One Punch Man, and about his life as a mangaka in general. Shitty art aside. And if you find these and do a Control F, which allows you to type in any word in a special search bar in almost any internet browser to locate where that word is mentioned, it will never show the word parody. It will, however, locate the word gag. Twice, within two different parts to the archive. One from some 2012 interviews, and the other from what appears to be like a stream interview, so potentially meaning that it's a spoken interview, so there's audio to it. The first one mentions how when One was a kid, he decided from the get-go that he would be the gag manga artist he is today. The second one seems to mention how Saitama lives in his own little gag world, as in if he didn't hit the moon during his last fight in Season 1, he would just fart his way back with a serious fart, or blow in the opposite direction like Superman would, as if a gag world was contained within his body, whereas everyone else lives in the normal world of One Punch Man. It's debatable, but not likely that this answer is incorrect, as it's Murata who said it. If a professional such as Murata, who made iShield 21, says so, then it's probably a gag manga. This all shows how little interest Seth has in researching anything but Dragon Ball. He, in no way an understatement, is a Dragon Ball wanker at this point. That's not to say that he's wrong about who would win between some characters and Goku, but he does not do his research. He is not the holy grail of intellectual integrity he wants you to think he is, where he's like, oh, I'm not going to report on it if it's not true, or if it's not factual. He's not dumb, he's not a bad person, just really fucking lazy. Another thing that the people who are fans of his use to claim that someone isn't a gag character, that they love to bring up, is that things like One Punch Man are listed as parodies, and that's why they can't be a gag. And they bring up Looney Tunes and Dr. Slump as gag standards. Little do they know that's not how Japanese gags work. You don't have to be a Looney Tunes level or Dr. Slump level of breaking physics to be a gag. And you also don't seem to realize that Dr. Slump is also listed as a parody, but it's still a gag, regardless of what the English site descriptions say. Saying that the description or labels matter is like saying that just because you're a registered Democrat or Republican means you can't share similar values. Regardless of your given titles or labels, you can be equally shit or equally righteous. One example of a gag that they would more than likely pretend isn't a gag is Aho Girl. Yoshiko constantly gets hit with punches that send her flying farther than Hulk Hogan in his prime could throw you, from a guy whose arms aren't even that fucking big. Does that sound like the law of physics are at play? The reason it's a gag, just like the prior mentioned, is that Yoshiko comes out without a scratch, despite being biologically a normal human with zero training and fighting experience, save for some gag moments. One Punch Man also takes a similar effect in its gags. While one scene will have Yoshiko seem to be seriously trying to avenge her friend, it ends with a gag that ruins the seriousness, because you know she's a retard. When Saitama is seriously talking about how he hopes he'll meet someone challenging, while not noticing that he kicked Garo out of the way despite the buildup of him being a challenge, he winds up just saying that he hopes he'll find that challenge after walking off, showing Garo's image smashed into a wall, while you see Saitama walking off, showing that Garo isn't that challenge and he most likely will never meet a challenge. A real challenge. Boros and Garo are not real challenges. Boros himself stated it, that he himself could never have beaten Saitama, no matter what. No matter how many times he tried to charge his energy attack, no matter how much time he took, he'd never win. It solidifies Saitama as the gag character. It also solidifies Yoshiko as the gag character. Sure, you could also argue that in Yoshiko's case, it's just an exaggeration of what's actually happening, but for all you know, that's the same for every gag series. Nothing is there to say, this isn't really happening. Not like that one special skill in the first Hyperdimension Neptunia. These people try to talk about physics. They try to talk about how characters they don't want to win somehow follow physics, yet there's always a few contradictions that they refuse to address in an educated manner. Those being that 1, no anime with superpowers follows our laws of physics, and 2, those animes they debate against also show that their main heroes, like Saitama, don't even follow their own laws of physics. If one character is following a set of laws, while everyone else is seemingly following a whole other set of laws, that doesn't imply that said one person, aka Saitama, is following the laws of his universe's physics. It means he's the gag character whose purpose is to act as that joke. Saitama and Yoshiko are the jokes of their series. They're less real people than the other characters, and more so just there to give a reason to laugh when no one else will. And in Saitama's case, he's also the one-punch joke meant to win a fight that would normally never be able to be won by the others. He's if you took every Deus Ex Machina ass-pull concept and gave it 2 arms and legs and eyes to see and told it to go live a life. It can't help but defeat everything in a punch. It's why people in One Punch Man suck without him, because normally they would have it just stored up inside them. Normally they would have a moment where they activate an ass-pull. But Saitama is that ass-pull with a will of his own, and he's constantly just doing it anyways, even when there's no need for it. He's killing a giant car monster in one punch. He's killing everything in one punch. And most of the time, he's a satire on this shit, not even a parody. He's not a direct imitation of anything other than Anpan Man, who isn't really that much of a hero to begin with compared to other superheroes. Parody requires some level of imitation. Satire doesn't. The series of One Punch Man uses the rest of its cast as the parodies of the superheroes, not Saitama. He's like if All Might was immortal physically and could just shit out more one-for-all power-ups. And one last issue that I have is that the fans constantly bring up how Saitama broke his limiter and isn't a gag character because of it. The issue is that it wasn't some kind of narrator saying that. No such narrator truly exists that actually said that much. It was the House of Evolution scientist trying to use science to rationalize why Saitama can do what he does. And science knows jack shit about gags. This is why I can't stand any of the content Seth makes that's not Dragon Ball videos. He needs to either stop touching other series until he learns to get his balls to drop and learn to patiently research other stuff before he responds, or he needs to admit he's just a Dragon Ball weeaboo and stop pretending like this shit is what sane people call being intellectually honest and having factual research done. It's much easier to disprove positive claims when those positive claims are backed up by bullshit. Now don't get me wrong though, I can agree on some parts. I don't believe Superman is gonna one-shot Goku. I know he's been debunked as far as most of the feats you hear online, such as the golden one. I know he's not infinite in power with no limits. That's not how batteries work. If he was infinite, he wouldn't need to heal and recharge his solar battery. He could never bleed because he would be impossible to kill and he'd just heal instantaneously. And he'd never even need to be revived. He'd get back up as if nothing happened. I also know that the Gold Superman, Superman Prime 1 million, is genuinely full of fan-wanking bullshit. I did a video before on that, and I'll probably do an update on that to make it better. I don't believe it's definitive that Saitama can beat Arali, because a gag versus a gag has no end. Like Immortals trying to kill Immortals in a series where Immortals can't be killed. But you need to do better research. So aside from that, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to making anime reviews since I liked doing that before I started the moving process to my new apartment. I'll be sure to reveal what it looks like when I get the chance, so please, if you're a Seth cocksucker, or if you're Seth, who's too triggered to see the facts and arguments of my video, and can only see the jokish ad hominems I threw in, then fuck off. If you want your word to be seen as law in the debate community, then stop pretending like you know your shit. Stop trying to debunk shit 24/7. Take a fucking rest for a few days. Spend some time jerking off. Get some sunshine. You look pale. Well, I don't know what you look like, but I assume you're pale, so go eat a burger. Stop trying to be the next Geekdom 101 with his no-sleep shit. Geekdom is more like a machine. Do you want to be seen as a human content machine, or just Seth the Programmer? That should kind of be a rhetorical question, you know, kinda. I don't know. Maybe you identify as an attack helicopter for all I fucking know. And you want to be called Apache the Programmer.
Oh, hell!